I can't hate anyone whose existence I don't really believe. They started believing in one God, and they're getting nearer the true figure all the time. This is progress.
Hi. Today I want to explain how a well-intended lie caused the pain and suffering of untold numbers and the murder of millions. If the truth had only been known, Hitler, for example, could not have used antisemitism to achieve his aims. For any wannabe dictator like Donald Trump, there's no greater tool to use than the religious, if you only know how to tap into their intense hatred and prejudice that their faith falsely fosters. So, as briefly as possible, I want to explain why and how this incredible lie came to be. Christianity, inventor, founder, a few Jews, AD 70 to 115, Roman Emperor Constantine, AD 330, Roman Emperor Theodosius, AD 380. Born Flavius Valerius Aurelius Constantinus on February 27th, AD 272, in what is present-day Serbia, Constantine was the Emperor of Rome from AD 306 until his death in 337. He was the man who organized Christianity into a single, non-fractured belief and gave it structure, making it as we know it today. He organized the meetings that vetted the ideas of exactly what it would become and oversaw its doctrine. Without Constantine, you would have never heard of Christ, because it was one of the smaller mystery cults which divided into various small groups because of its slow growth, lack of unity, and verbal tradition. It was not famous nor consistent, nor was there the Bible we know today until long after he took a political interest in it. But where did it come from in the first place? Judaism's 24 Hebrew Bibles from about 1800 BC were used by Jews to form the Old Testament by choosing their favorite scriptures. As with most faiths, Christianity has its roots in the one prominent before it. Without question, the most influential story that brought the need for the eventual forming of Christianity was the plight of the Jews brought on by the tale of Abraham, whom God commanded to kill his firstborn son Isaac to pacify God's anger. It is at the root of the Jewish Yom Kippur, goat sacrifice. Just before Abraham obediently killed his son, God intervened and told Abraham he could substitute an animal and spare Isaac. Abraham was being tested by God for his loyalty, God can't read minds, and was willing to murder his son. So God was pleased with his devotion and promised him he would become the father of a great nation, the Jews, by obeying God's rules and living as examples of God's chosen people. They would be given a land to form this nation that he would father, Israel. This ultimately caused problems and gave rise to eventual change nearly 2,000 years later. And so the basis for animal blood sacrifice for atonement began for the Jews with the sparing of Isaac. Blood sacrifices on altars to please various gods were nothing new. The Aztecs ripped humans to shreds to ensure the sun would rise the next morning. The Olmec civilization from around 1200 BC butchered people, including children, from atop pyramids. The religious ritual of sacrifice has been passed down throughout history. It makes sense when you think about it. To sacrifice is to give up something for a benefit. The dearer the sacrifice, the more deserved or greater the benefit. In Judaism, sacrificing a goat will forgive sin for 1 year, after which the forgiveness wears off. This annual sacrificing for the Jews carried a beastly burden, the need for a temple that would stand and draw attention from enemies and persecutors. This was key to a needed improvement, the invention of Christ, a much greater sacrifice, and one that would never wear off. To understand this solution, let's first look at the problem. The first Jewish temple was built in Jerusalem by King Solomon and mentioned in the book of Deuteronomy in the Old Testament, taken from the Hebrew Bible as the place for Israelites to make these blood sacrifices. According to the Hebrew Bible, it was for the rituals of killing for forgiveness as well. Take a special note, for there is great significance in the following. The Yom Kippur ritual is the Jewish tradition whereby two identical goats are used, one of them being innocent, and therefore the greater sacrifice, to shed its blood on the temple altar, while the other goat becomes filled with sin by ritualistic touching by hand, which casts all the sins of Israel onto it. Then this sin-filled goat becomes regarded as the lesser goat, unworthy of sacrifice, and is banished into the desert. Killing an innocent victim is more of a sacrifice than killing a sinful one, as death to a sinful one is more like justice, and death to an innocent one is hardship, therefore sacrifice. We will return to this later, as it has profound implications on the reasons for the invention of Christianity. The first temple was sacked by the Egyptian pharaoh Shushank in the 900s BC, then repaired by the king of Judah, Jehosh, then attacked again in 700 BC and rebuilt and destroyed yet again by the Babylonians in 586 BC when they took Jerusalem and kicked out the Jews. Tough times for God's chosen people. Construction of the second temple began, and the Jews returned to Jerusalem in 538 BC from their Babylonian exile. This was granted by the Persian king Cyrus, and by 515 BC the second temple was completed by the Jews. Then the Jews were immensely disrespected by the Hellenic religion's priests when they began sacrificing pigs in the temple and erected a statue of Zeus in it. When a Greek official ordered a Jewish priest to perform a Hellenic sacrifice, he was in turn murdered by the priest. In 167 BC, the Jews fought back to win their freedom. The temple was rededicated to them in 165 BC by the Jewish priest Judah Maccabee, and today that is celebrated within Hanukkah. It must have been a grand time for them, considering how many times the Jews had been exiled and disrespected and the temple sacked over the previous 1,000 years. But God's promise to them never materialized. In 63 BC, Roman general and statesman Pompey the Great entered the temple, desecrating it, but not destroying it. In 54 BC, Roman general Crassus looted the temple, but was murdered soon after by having molten gold poured down his throat at the end of the Battle of Carrhae, stopping the Roman invasion of the Parthian Empire of Iran. It was said Crassus was a greedy man, so it was perhaps a fitting end to his life in those barbaric times. By 20 BC, the second temple was renovated by Herod the Great, and so it was then called Herod's Temple. The Romans under Emperor Nero destroyed it for the final time in AD 70 during the siege of Jerusalem. Again, the Jews were banned from Jerusalem. Imagine the Jews thinking, "What have we done to deserve not receiving the promise God made us?" Never again did the temple stand intact, although a rebuilding attempt came some 350 years later, but this was damaged by an earthquake during construction and never completed. Take note of the year AD 70. The evolution of personal Savior God religions had been on the rise for a while, and it was just a matter of time until another one came along that was very similar to its predecessors and, as they always have, introducing new and improved theology. It comes as no surprise that after the temple problems and centuries of horrendous persecution of the Jews, resulting in internal suspicions and self-blame among the various sects of Judaism, that a secret plan was formed. It had to be hidden to work. It is no coincidence that this unrest and talk of corruption and mistrust surrounding the temple's operation is found in the New Testament's Gospels. For it is this self-blame that's at the heart of the creation of Christianity. The Jews were desperate to find the cause of failed prophecy and had fragmented into various sects due to diminishing unity on views of the failed promised land of Israel, deducing the temple must be at the root of their despair. Change was in the air. The first known writings of the epistles of Paul occurred 20 years before the temple was last destroyed. There are many writings of Paul, but historians of Christianity generally agree that only 7 of the 13 in the Bible are authentic. Forgery, plagiarism, and general tampering were common in those days, with findings in clay pots of unfinished works. Of course, plagiarism is evident in all religions. The authentic letters of Paul in evidence came before Mark's Gospel and don't refer to Jesus on earth, but rather they came to Paul through revelations in AD 50, with no mention of healing people or disciples. They do not connect well to the Gospels. The remaining 6 epistles of Paul are forgeries attempting to smooth this discrepancy over. Without warning or any lead-in, the first Gospels by Mark began to appear about 30 years later, and within 10 years after the temple was destroyed, or about AD 80, and placed Jesus on earth as a man in the story as if before the actual time Paul wrote. Without the fabrication of this story by Mark, Christianity would not have snowballed, for it was the means for this new faith to replace or improve Judaism. The invention of a sacrificial deity as a personal savior to replace the temple and the goats once and for all. The effort to sway the Jews is a conspiracy to help Jews. Pontius Pilate held 2 prisoners, allegorically likened to the 2 goats of Yom Kippur. Pilate released notorious criminal Barabbas, a fictional character, his name meaning son of father in Hebrew, to identify the connection with the 2 goats at the request of the crowd, to be freed over Jesus Christ, also a prisoner and son of the Father, during the customary pardon that preceded the annual Jewish feast of the Passover. When Pilate asked the crowd, "What has he done that he should be punished for?" the crowd merely chanted, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" There you have it, the ultimate sacrifice of God's Son, greater than if Abraham had killed Isaac, and a far greater sacrifice than a Yom Kippur goat, a sacrifice that would last forever with no need for the doomed temple. Mark's story was actually brilliant. Sadly, its purpose backfired. Christians claim the crowd who wanted Barabbas to be freed was mostly made up of Jews hating Jesus. Christian scholars have attempted to diffuse anti-Semitism by Christians, suggesting that the crowd was mostly made up of Barabbas supporters. But the truth is, it was just a lie. A story made up by Jews to help Jews. To help Jews. Nothing could be further from the truth. My name is Andrew James McQuinn. If you enjoyed this video, or even if you didn't, because you want to discredit the science that opposes your faith, stay in the loop of information anyway by subscribing to my channel. Better still, my book, The World's Biggest Lie, A Trial for Truth, also in audiobook from audible.com and iTunes, is available, as you've seen, in softcover and in hardcover, as well as ebook from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and more, but for now, only online. But if you forget all this stuff, it's very easy to remember the world's biggest lie. So just go to theworldsbiggestlie.com. And all the links you need can be found there, including this YouTube channel, Facebook, Twitter, etc. Please subscribe so you no longer have to search for it, and you may want to see other videos I've already done. Thank you for watching, and let's enlighten the world together, because proven facts and truth are desperately needed. Thank you, and may God bless. What I meant to say is, have a great day.